Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
Hello there, this is Elora, and I'm a prequel trilogy kid.
And this is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid. And you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You? The podcast where we talk to all kinds of fans of the franchise, from industry insiders to indie artists, from obsessive mythologists to mega collectors, all for the one goal to take the hate out of the debate by focusing on one fan at a time to find out what does Star Wars mean to you.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just fun to chat Star Wars.
It is, and this is our episode between episodes where we get to chat about whatever we want.
Yes. Yeah, so if you want to get in on the conversation, you can do so at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. And also, please, wherever you listen to the podcast, subscribe to us and rate us. Give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah. I mean, only rate us if you're going to give us 5 stars.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't bother.
That's like the social contract in podcasting. If you're an audience member, give a 5-star rating. Last week, we spoke with Brent Friedman, who was one of the writers on The Clone Wars and Rebels, and he co-wrote the Season 7 episodes that introduced the Bad Batch. Now, at the time, Clone Wars was in flux because Disney had just bought Star Wars and they were trying to sunset older things. But somehow Clone Wars just kept coming back. So these episodes weren't supposed to air, but then they were finished and they did air, and let's just cut to Brent as he tells the story.
Yeah.
What was amazing was it was a packed house. I don't know, there was probably 1,000 or 2,000 people in this big, huge room, and we watched these episodes back to back to back to back, right? All 4. And the audience loved them, even in an unfinished state.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the most gratifying experiences of my career, because, usually when you have television produced, you don't have any audience interaction, right? Because it's all people are watching at home on their screens. But this was actually 4 episodes of TV that were projected on a huge screen with Star Wars fans, not just any audience, but hardcore Star Wars fans. So it was incredible watching it with them and feeling how excited they were by the introduction of these 4 new kind of clone commandos with desirable mutations as
desirable mutation. So like you said, it was a big hit at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim. And of course, as everyone knows, the Bad Batch went on to do 3 seasons of their own show. And because of Brent's connection with the Bad Batch, and how he kind of introduced the pilot episodes within the Clone Wars, we thought it'd be fun to take a look back at those episodes from the Clone Wars. I'm very familiar with the Bad Batch.
And I was newer to them.
Yes.
Because I was newer to all of the animated shows. Yes.
So in the arc, the Bad Batch are introduced as the defective clones with desirable mutations. It reminds me of Monk, the defective detective.
I love also the phrase desirable mutation.
Yes, because it implies that there were some undesirable mutations.
Exactly.
That they were like, hard pass on the guy who has mayonnaise for armpits. So the 4 original Bad Batchers were Hunter, who's the leader, Crosshair, the sharpshooter, Tech, the tech guy, and Wrecker, who was like the tank or muscle of the group.
Mm-hmm. They all definitely have their own archetype.
Yes. I mean, what's so easy is their archetypes are fairly in their names.
Yes.
Hunter, Crosshair, Tech, and Wrecker. It's as they're introduced, they get kind of more definition. I think their introduction kind of establishes their character traits and also their intergroup dynamic.
Yes, which are immediate the second they step off of the platform.
Yes. When they arrive, they come bounding down, and Rex is at first very like skeptical because they have this throwaway line that's kind of like they have 100% success rate, and Rex is like, it's not that they're successful, it's how they're successful. Like, so there's already that tension there that these are outsiders almost.
There's this there's this rebel, outlaw, almost like anti-hero kind of persona about all of them specifically as a group. And then there's like, some are more gentle than others, I think, at least in their introduction. And I say, I think. For anyone listening who's like, she doesn't even know the Bad Batch, I watched the entire series in preparation for this episode. But it was a lot of content to take in a short amount of time, so I have to go back and really absorb it.
It was the fire hose of Star Wars content.
It was the fire hose of the Bad Batch, so I got to go back and really digest it. But yeah, there's this kind of like, I mean, they're mercenaries.
Yeah, well, they're mercenaries, but they're also like, I don't think it's ever kind of established that Hunter is the leader, even though he's established as the leader. Like,
true. Yeah.
There's one point where, and I forget which episode it is it's the second or third episode in the arc, where they're kind of having a fight with Rex, and Crosshair is in disagreement with Rex, and Rex is like, no, you got to do what I say, and Crosshair's like, no, and Wrecker comes to Crosshair's defense and lifts up Rex and kind of like in a neck hold, and that's when Hunter's like, okay, everyone stop. Wrecker, put him down now. And you get the sense that Hunter is the leader. But I don't kind of remember anyone ever going, and Hunter's our leader. And
it's never overt. Yeah, no, it's not like, we follow to the end or like whatever.
Yes. So that aspect of it is there because Hunter has always been kind of the default leader. Highly
trained in tracking and combat.
Yes.
Enhanced sensory abilities. Sorry, I just cut you off completely. I was looking at his I was just looking at his list of like tactical resourcefulness.
Yes. Like the electromagnetic thing is really interesting in the sense of like, wow, that's a pretty strong mutation as opposed to like Crosshair, who is more apt to shoot from a distance, Tech, who gets technical things, and Wrecker, who's big and strong. His is really like the most mutatey of the mutations.
Maybe we should go into them in more detail before we kind of like dive into the story.
Yes.
For those listening who are maybe like me and new to the Bad Batch.
So like you said, Hunter is highly skilled in tracking and combat. He does have some kind of electromagnetic thing in his head where he's attuned to the poles of a planet. So he can always find his directional North Star, I guess.
Which is a really badass mutation to have.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, he's literally a human compass.
Yeah, he's a human compass.
Yeah. I think that one of the things, too, that's hinted at, but maybe not as overtly made obvious, is his enhanced sensory abilities also, I feel, extend to his, like, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him such a great leader. And I think that's why it also doesn't have to be said that he's leading the pack. Like, he's really good at managing... he's really good at managing the people around him, and he's really good at just essentially kind of like, I mean, it's this tactical thing. It's being able to read the room.
Yes.
And make strategic and tactful decisions based off of that. And I think that they didn't need to say it like specifically to make it clear that like he's so good at that because of his enhancement.
Yes.
And I like that. I like it when Star Wars takes something that is 1000% a skill and they shine a light on it, but they don't have to be like, this is a skill.
Yes.
Like super strength or something like that. It's just like, it's just
there.
it's just there, and his success is because of it, and like that's enough. And it's the same. I feel the same way when I see Star Wars, tell stories of like really strong female characters, and how like there's another type of strength sometimes in being a bit more of like a maternal thinker or feeler. And I think this is a long-winded way of saying that I think that his sensory abilities extended far more than just his electromagnetic signals for planets.
Yes. his north, south, east, west.
Yes, I think that he was actually just like incredibly emotionally intelligent.
Yes. And then there's Wrecker, who's kind of like the 6-year-old of the group. Yeah, the antithesis. Like, low IQ, EQ, high strength, high bombastic.
Means well. Definitely means well. Yeah.
He's like, he's got brute strength, but also a lot of loyalty and love.
Mm-hmm. I love this. He's like, it's just a childlike innocence. Yeah.
Yes. A little bit of the comic relief, and also, I think, the hungry one. He's always the one who wants to destroy something or eat something.
Yeah. Comic relief. We love it.
Yeah. And then there's Tech, who's kind of, tech savvy and really intelligent.
Really analytical.
Really analytical. And calm and rational.
He kind of reminds me of like the human C-3PO in terms of his like, or no, C-3PO is probably not I'm thinking of K2SO. Sorry. He's like the human K2SO in terms of like, I feel like K2 is always like running diagnostics on like probability.
Yes.
I feel like Tech is kind of like that.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I mean, I like your C-3PO, but like 3PO without the prissiness.
Yes,
or
maybe
fear.
A mix of both. Yeah, it's a mix of both for sure. But I said 3PO because, he served that definitely in the original trilogy, but I was thinking more to like recent Star Wars, and I think that K2 and him are probably more aligned in terms of like just how they function. Yeah.
And then there's Crosshair, who's He is the sharpshooter of the group. Yeah. He is, I would say, the most cold-hearted of the group. He's reserved, precise, a little detached.
To be a sniper.
Yes. Yeah. And he is very much entrenched in the military way of order structure and mission success.
Yep.
And and as the series goes on, you see he's not as close to the group as the rest.
His allegiance is tested multiple times. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's Echo, who is now this 4-episode arc is kind of his rescue and rescue and
reintegration.
Reintegration into the clone. Into the clone army, but also his kind of introduction and integration into Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, because he becomes a member. And he was originally an ARC trooper who was captured by the Separatist army, and they kind of converted him into this almost like Lobot, part man, part machine computer. They used his information against him, and this arc starts with, there's an attack on Anaraxis, I want to say. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it. That's how you pronounce
it, yeah. That's how I would say it.
Yeah, right?
Someone on Twitter tell us if we're saying it wrong.
Yeah. Which sounds a lot like Arrakis from Dune, and I find that kind of curious. So on the planet Anaraxis, there's an attack on the clone army. They're trying to defend themselves, but the Separatist knows every move. And Rex is like, they know my battle plans, and I think it's because they have Echo.
Yes.
And this mission is to find out why they know everything, stop it, and ultimately to save Echo. What I find so interesting is the group dynamic of these characters and how Brent and the other writers establish who they are so quickly. Because like you were saying, coming off of the ship, Wrecker is barreling down and being big.
Yeah.
Hunter is a little more quiet, like scoping the situation out. Tech is just shouting out tech stuff. I mean, right away they say so. Oh, they're talking about their previous mission, and right away, when the Bad Batch first arrived, they're talking about this mission where they had to fight a hive of something on the Yalbek Queen.
Which, as a beekeeper, had me roaring.
Yes.
But yes.
And
I want like a, you know how Pixar does like the mini like shorts?
Oh yes.
I want a short on whatever that event was.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, kind of like maybe like more cartoon animated as opposed to computer animated.
Totally. I just want that whole story. I mean, it's kind of fun not knowing what it is and what happened exactly, but it sounds epic. Anyway.
So they're talking about defeating the Yalbek Queen.
Yes.
And each of the responses highlights who they are as a clone member or as a Bad Batcher. Because the hunter is talking about how they tracked them down. Wrecker's talking about the brute strength of taking out a stinger with a knife. And Tech is talking about all the math that went into finding them or something. And then Crosshair is just being an a-hole. He's just like...
Yeah, he's just
being
kind
cold.
of... Yeah, he's being a little bit of a spitfire. Yes, I agree. It is really hard to make it look so easy writing. I mean, like, it's really hard to make writing look easy. And when those characters step off of their ship and you know not only exactly who they are within 30 seconds, but you know how they are as a group, that's not at all easy to do.
No.
And
they have 1 or 2 pages to do this in.
They have 1 or 2 pages to do this and to totally establish like what's going on here. I'm enjoying being exposed to cartoon Star Wars. No, I really am, because I avoided it for a long time because animation's never really been like my go-to. But there's so much of the story that it's filling in gaps for me. It's expanding on just this really rich universe I love so much. I mean, everyone's listening to us like, yeah, we know, that's why we've been watching it for like a decade, Elora. Where have you been? But for me, with the Bad Batch, I've always thought the cloning in Star Wars is really an interesting piece to the story. And so kind of, having this series where, we're focusing on how genetically all of these clones are the same, right? At birth, quote unquote. But that they all develop their own unique personalities. They all develop their own unique skills. There's a lot of individuality despite their genetic coding being the same.
Yes.
So from that perspective, it's really interesting, but it's also, the mutation side of it that gives them distinct abilities and that's made them so sought after almost and used as a tool is really interesting, especially as we go further. I know we're just kind of focusing on their initial episode arc, but I did just binge the entire show. So that is where my head's at the moment. As the series goes on, the whole narrative around kind of the post-war transition after the Clone Wars and what that meant for the clones, who are trying to kind of navigate this galaxy that's viewing them as either relics or tools that they can use and discard, and not people who are individuals with their own distinct abilities and feelings and everything. It's an interesting conversation on the origins and ethics of cloning.
Not only on cloning, but also on soldiering. Because it's almost an analogy to that. It's once the war's over, how are these people discarded?
Yeah.
And I also think it's interesting that the Bad Batch is the clones feel separate from the rest of and the brotherhood amongst themselves because they're all brothers. But the Bad Batch, even within that, they're kind of separated because they're all mutations. They all look a little different, maybe act a little different. And it's interesting to me that within the clone army, there's a smaller group of people who are maybe looked down upon. Because I really do feel like Rex and Commander Cody looked down upon them a little bit.
I do too.
When the episode started.
Well, and it really demonstrates their desire for autonomy, even though
Yes.
But they are also driven to work as a team. But there's this, and it speaks to probably a larger issue across the galaxy, which is, you would want to figure out, like, how are you autonomous from something you're genetically identical to? You'd be really struggling to define yourself beyond your capabilities. Because if you're born and raised and looked at as only as a tool your whole life.
I was. Not that kind of tool.
Oh my God.
Not a useful tool. The opposite kind of tool.
There's a lot of exploration of themes around like free will and self-determination and the consequences of creation. And I like what you're saying, which is the soldiertude of it all, because we're not really cloning armies here in our present world. This is sci-fi, but I think that the moral and ethical questions it raises are the same.
Yes, I absolutely. And that's one of the great things I think about the Clone Wars is because it really dives into those that debate, and also the Bad Batch on the post-war side of it does a really good job.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm most impressed with or pleased with as a viewer is how Crosshair is immediately set up a little bit as an intergroup conflict, because that plays out within the series in the 3 seasons, because he leaves the Bad Batch, he betrays the Bad Batch, thinking, and it's because he's a good soldier and follows orders. Like the Clone Wars says a lot. Good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah.
And he adheres to that. But it's also, I think, what's so great about those first couple of episodes in the Clone Wars is how they establish that and tease that without directly teasing it at all. Like, you just see he's a little more different than the other clone. And it's I just think Crosshair is one of my favorite, maybe not favorite characters, but most interesting because of that conflict.
He is one of the most interesting because of that conflict. I'd argue that he's got the most trauma.
Yes, I agree.
And that's the reason for a lot of his decision making. It's in his programming. It's literally like in his genetics, but he's also, I think he's at odds with himself. And he does. He breaks off and he commits a lot of atrocities. And that's true.
That's just fact.
That's just a fact. But I think that I think that episode arc, and I think that the entire series does a really good job of posing the moral question of, if you are fighting for something bigger than yourself, is it worth, do you even know what you're fighting for, or is it the propaganda? Are you being programmed to think that way? Like, really making sure that you're checking in with yourself and looking for that autonomy and that self-reflection. And I think that's my takeaway from the Bad Batch.
That's the why of it all.
That's why of it all for me.
I think that's fantastic. Who is your favorite Bad Batcher?
Probably.
And we're not going to include Omega because we're just talking about more the introduction.
Damn, I was actually going to say Omega.
Yeah. Well, I just feel bad because we haven't talked about her at all. But there's we'll do a whole Omega episode.
We could do an Omega episode. I think she's a fascinating character, and her choices are really interesting.
Yes, I agree. She's just so. You were talking about that, like the EQ of it all and the maternal instinct. And I don't know if it's a maternal instinct so much as a collective instinct or a work together instinct.
She's got so much empathy.
Like, she has all the attributes of the Bad Batch. She has that. Maybe I don't know who has the empathy in the Bad Batch, but she's an amalgam.
Hunter.
Yeah, I was thinking Hunter too.
Yeah,
That's what I was
Hunter.
thinking.
Yeah, he's probably be my next favorite. Hunter, just because I think he's a really interesting and complex character. If we're just going with funsies, Tech.
Yeah.
And not to say I don't enjoy Wrecker's comedic relief or any of the others. I just, I love Tech's just like very, this is what it is, delivery on everything.
Yes.
And it just always cracks me up. Yeah.
Like in my head, a lot of times, and I know they're very different people, I get Tech confused with Echo because in my head, I like, oh, who's the tech guy? Echo.
Yeah.
And then I realized, no, it's Tech.
No, it's Tech.
It's just
hard not to love those goggles.
Yes, it is. It really is. That's another thing that's interesting is how their outfits, show their personality as well. Just their design. You've got Hunter who has like a camouflage face.
Mm-hmm. He's also the most human looking.
Yes, and then Wrecker who's like this giant.
He's just huge.
Wrecking ball. He's literally a wrecking ball. Crosshair, who's more thin, but in darker colors, all one color. Even his face is kind of paled out a bit.
Well, he's also
as if he spends all his time in the dark.
Exactly. He's designed kind of like the Empire characters are costumed and designed.
Yes.
It's this very kind of like his character's so visually ambiguous, which makes a lot of sense for his arc. But yeah, no, he gives like he could be both. He could be an insurgent or he could be a sniper for the rebellion. Or sorry, the Empire. We don't know.
He's very like along the lines of a morally gray character within the Star Wars universe.
So it makes sense that he's gray.
Yeah, so it makes sense that he's gray. You're right. And then there's I wish we did him last. And then there's Tech, who is decked out in tech. Goggles say everything. Like, look, if you want a nerd in your cast, you put glasses on that person.
Oh, he walked into a Radio Shack and never looked back. If he could do that, you would love it. Is Radio Shack still a thing?
It is not.
Okay.
And I think it's such a shame. I literally mourn for the loss of Radio Shack because
my God.
anytime you needed a weird connector, Radio Shack was there.
Now you have to go on Amazon and like zoom in the photo and be like, does this look like the prong I have?
Yes, exactly. Is this 1/4 inch or 3/4 inch?
Yeah. No, I mean, oh God. Well, so Tech would never be the one that, because everyone has the bag of cables that they eventually throw away and then find that they needed one of those cables. Tech would never do that. Tech would have them all like gaff taped and organized. Yeah.
Exactly. He would have a case where they were like alphabetized or like from generation to generation.
Exactly. That's why he's probably my favorite, like, fun one.
Yeah. And then and then there's Echo. Who's if Tech is C-3PO, Echo's R2-D2 because he can connect directly with the computers and interface with them.
Yeah.
And he's a strategist and more of, I think he is kind of more of the not heart of the group, but moral center a little bit.
I'd say he's a little bit of the glue too. I mean, this story arc that launches
that's what I was looking for, the glue.
Yeah, I mean, the story arc that kind of launches their characters into the Star Wars universe is all centered on rescuing Echo.
And him realizing that he can find his way with them now that he's changed. Because he is kind of a cyborg now.
They kind of rescue each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that is why he's the glue.
So
I feel like I prematurely got to the why of it all for me. What for you, this episode arc, the Bad Batch in general, like what's the why of it all for you in Star Wars? Like what does it bring to your Star Wars experience?
That's a good question. What does it mean to my
Take your time.
Like where does the Bad Batch sit in the world of Star Wars?
Mm-hmm.
Like what is their role? For me, a little bit is they represent what happens to the clone army after it's disbanded.
Mm-hmm.
They are one story of clones who are trying to reintegrate into society or find their way in society or figure out what it is they're supposed to be doing now that the war is over.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like how out of your element can you be if not just that you're a clone who was discarded by the Empire, but you were like the ones that the clones look down on, discarded by the Empire, and now you're trying to make your way in the universe. Yeah. And makes for a very strong story. And then you add in Omega to that, and she's truly the heart and glue of the team.
Yeah, later, for sure.
Yeah, later.
Yeah.
I guess Omega, in a way, is kind of the Y herself, because they stay together for Omega.
They do. That's true.
And I just think I don't know if I have a Y yet. I don't know what Bad Batch means to me yet.
That's okay.
Trying to figure that out.
I mean, honestly, maybe we don't need more of a Y than that. So that's what the Bad Batch meant to us this week. I'm going to deep dive it again, and I might have more thoughts and feelings in the future that we can explore when we talk Omega, maybe.
I think we'll talk a lot about the Bad Batch and Omega.
Yeah.
Hopefully she returns as a character.
I do too. And huge shout out to Brent Friedman for coming on and talking to us about his writing and his work on the Clone Wars and Rebels. It was such a privilege to hear your point of view and honestly learn from you.
It was an incredible episode. If you've listened to it only once, go back and re-listen to it.
It's a great interview.
And if you want to get into the conversation, you can do so at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. And we're on, the socials.
All the socials.
Twitter, Facebook,
X.
Instagram. Oh, yeah, X.
I don't think anyone's saying that anymore.
I don't think so. I think everyone's still defiantly calling it Twitter.
Next week, we're going to have Robbie Weideman on, who runs the Star Wars shot-by-shot Twitter account, and we're going to deep dive on the cinematography that makes Star Wars. Yeah. So
that's it. I mean, he's awesome. He's fun to talk to.
So fun to talk to. I see shot by shot on my Twitter every single day, and it's always fun when you recognize like a good line to quote or a moment that makes you giggle. Yeah.
I just like Return of the Jedi for whatever reason. Every shot, I'm like, I know that line. I know exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's like, because Empire is my favorite and Star Wars my most familiar, but for whatever reason, that must have just hit me at the right time when I was a kid.
Right. It's in that reptilian brain of yours. It's like all the song lyrics that you'll never forget. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I can't remember anything anymore.
Well, may the Force be with you, Dave.
And with you.
We were, I had my sister's wedding was recently, and we had all the family in town, and I ended up with a foot injury, and so I was laying on the couch with my foot elevated for days, and I was just watching Star Wars on marathon, and it was really funny because my mother-in-law was here, and we were sitting and we were watching Return of the Jedi, and she looks at me about halfway through the film, and she goes, I never saw this one. And I was like, how? She goes, this is cute. I was like, yes, okay. She loved Endor. It was really funny.
That's so funny. It's just, how?
I know. I'm like, God bless her. She's 74 years old. She's like, I never saw this one. I'm like, how is that possible?
I'm always like, when someone's, I'm always shocked. I can't believe it.
Well, may the Force be with you, Dave.
And with your grandma, and with your mother-in-law.
My mother-in-law.
Wait, who was it? Was it
my mother-in-law?
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. And we're gonna cut all that out. You can use it as a secret scene or something, baby. But it was it was so funny. She literally looked at me and was like, I didn't see this one.
Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.